I've let my kids loot my brother's house to prove my point. So my brother and his family came to visit last month. My kids and I do this thing where we build these crazy Lego scenes all over the house, like Spider-Man fighting a dinosaur on the kitchen counter, or Batman riding a dragon on top of the TV. It's our little tradition, and honestly, it makes the house feel more fun. My nephew really got into them when he saw them. Kid was fascinated, kept asking about every single setup we had going, which was cool, you know? Kids should be curious about stuff like that. But then when they were getting ready to leave, I noticed some of our minifigures were missing. Not the whole scenes, just specific characters that we'd spent time hunting down at different stores. I asked my brother to bring them back. Simple request, right? But he just shrugged and said, kids being kids, and that he'd return them next time we saw each other. The thing is, some of those pieces were pretty rare. My daughter had saved up her allowance for weeks to get this limited edition Iron Man, and my son had this custom Mandalorian figure he'd been obsessed with. 2 weeks later, I met him for coffee. I reminded him beforehand that I wanted our stuff back, texted him the night before, mentioned it when we made plans, the whole deal. Guy shows up empty-handed, says he forgot to bring the toys, air quotes and everything, like our stuff was just junk. That's when I realized he wasn't planning to return anything. He thought because they were Legos it didn't matter, like we wouldn't miss them or something. So I decided to teach him a lesson about respecting other people's belongings. The next weekend, we got invited to a BBQ at his place. Before we went in, I had a talk with my kids. I told them that unless all our missing pieces were sitting on the table when we walked through that door, everything in the house was fair game. Remotes, small gadgets, anything they could fit in their pockets. These kids went absolutely wild. My daughter grabbed the TV remote, the soundbar remote, and something that controlled their fancy lights. My son snagged a wireless phone charger, a couple of beer koozies with their favorite sports team logos, and this little Bluetooth speaker from their kitchen counter. My youngest found a whole drawer full of phone cables and stuffed them in her backpack. I had to draw the line when my son tried to walk out with their actual dog. Kid had the leash in his hand and everything, acting like the golden retriever was just another item to grab. Had to sneak the poor thing back into the house before we left. My phone started blowing up before we even got to our car. I just let it ring. By the time we got home, I had like 12 missed calls and a bunch of texts in all caps. When I finally called him back, he was furious. Started yelling about how a bunch of his stuff was missing and how he knew exactly what happened. I played dumb at first, told him I'd ask the kids if they saw anything. That made him even madder. He was cursing, saying I fucking well knew what was going on and demanding his stuff back immediately. So I told him the same thing he told me. I'd box everything up and give it back next time we saw each other, but only after we got our Lego pieces back. The line went quiet for a few seconds, then he hung up on me. 3 hours later, there's a knock on my door. It's my brother, holding a grocery bag with all our missing Lego pieces inside. He'd even grabbed some stuff that wasn't ours by mistake. These random minifigures his kid must have mixed in with our stuff. His face was red and he looked like he wanted to punch something. I gave him back all his remotes and gadgets right there on the spot. Then I told him this is exactly how we'd be handling his kid in the future. If something of ours goes missing after they visit, something of theirs goes missing too. Simple as that. He was pissed about having to make a special trip just to return our toys. Called it childish and said I was being petty over plastic figurines. But here's the thing, they weren't just plastic figurines to my kids. They were treasures they'd saved up for, pieces of stories they'd built in their heads. And he completely dismissed that. My parents heard about the whole thing and think there's a huge difference between an 8-year-old taking some Lego minifigures and a couple of teenagers pillaging their uncle's house. They said I went way overboard and made the kids complicit in something that was really between me and my brother. But honestly, those kids learned more about respecting other people's property in one afternoon than they would have from a dozen lectures. And my brother finally understood how it feels when someone takes your stuff and acts like it's no big deal.